All right. Hello. So hopefully we're live and streaming on our website and hopefully also on Facebook. If somebody like Ashley could give me a heads up whether or not I can start, like if we're on Facebook not or yet.
We just...
Oh, yeah, we're live now. Yay!
Yes,
that's
we are.
Weird.
I believe
Okay,
it goes
cool.
right at noon is when
so
it's...
I'm going to share this to my page real quick. Tell everyone we are doing Passover in a pandemic. 101. Cool. That's so weird. All right. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Passover in a pandemic, as we are experiencing currently. This is the first of a 3-part series that all the rabbis are doing leading up to Pesach. We'll have like a little bit of a different take, a little bit of a different thing to be teaching. And what I am doing is Passover in a pandemic 101. It's for people who have maybe not led a Seder on their own in a long time, but now because of our physical distancing are not going to be able to go to the parents' house or the grandparents' house or whoever, or people who have never led a Seder before. And so that's the first part of what I'm going to cover is some kind of basics for, oh man, I have to do a Seder for the first time or on my own, and things are a little bit wonky out there. And the second part is going to be kosher Passover in a time of pandemic. Because who knows what the stores are going to have in 3 weeks? Who knows even what the stores have today? We all know the experience of going to the store now and not having everything that we want or that we need. And so we're going to kind of go over what is kosher Passover going to look like this year, and how do you make that something that feels like Pesach and is Pesach, but with the reality of the ground. So first things first, the Seder, and I want to focus right now. And by the way, if you have any questions, if you want to say, Sarah, you talk too darn fast, that's always a common complaint I get. You can put those on Facebook Live. You can, I guess you could just text me or call me. Well, don't call me, but you can text. You can email. You can use the Zoom chat function, all good ways to ask a question. If you have a question about something I say, please feel free to let me know. So for the Seder part, I want to focus on supplies specifically, because if you are needing to get supplies, it's a good idea to look at that sooner rather than later. And for a lot of people, there's going to be things that they never thought they needed, and now they're looking at needing. First of all, the point of the Seder, basic thing here, is to tell the Passover story and to do some very important brachot, say some very important blessings. That is really why we have a Seder. But it's not even just telling the story, because you could say, well, I mean, I know the story of Passover. I went to Hebrew school, Rabbi. I saw the Rugrats special on Passover. Millennial. I know what Passover is about, but it's not just about telling the Passover story every single year. It's that the Seder serves as a reminder to other people and to ourselves the miracle of going from slavery to freedom, and the miracle of the changing of time, that things have been tough for the Jews. We've gone through some rough times. People go through rough times and they can be really bad for a long time, but that we come out on the other side, and we come out strong, and we come out whole as possibly can be, and that there is an end to bad times, which perhaps is rather relevant now. I've heard some people saying, well, Seder is so involved, and Pesach is so involved, and there's so many restrictions, and it's so difficult. Maybe we just, let's just skip it this year. It's too much. And to that I say, please don't skip Pesach. I know it's a tough holiday. It's a big holiday. But every expert on mental health and well-being will tell you that keeping your regular rhythm of life, whether that's your daily routine or holidays, it's good for your mental health. It's good for your emotional health. I would argue it's good for your spiritual health. It's good for you. It's good for your kids to see that some things do keep going on. And Passover may look different this year. It probably will look different this year, but it's important to do it and to keep it. And you can 100% keep Pesach. May not be the way you've always done it, may be very different from the way you've done it, but you can do Pesach this year. You should do Pesach. You should have a Seder, and I'm going to try to help you. So first things first is supplies. As I said, there are some things that you're going to need that you might not have. First being Haggadah. Got to have the how-to guide, the manual. I actually think that the upside of everybody kind of being forced to have small Seders this year, like it's just going to be like you and the people you live with, like you and your immediate family, is you're going to need like, I don't know, 2, 3, 4, 5, like Haggadot. Like you don't need that many Haggadot because there aren't going to be that many of you. So, upside. And a lot of the places where I would normally point you to get your own Haggadah are not going to be options. The synagogue gift shops, great. Ours, Beth Yeshurun, is fantastic. It's so good. It has so many things that you need. It's closed, of course. Amazon, which is a pretty good resource for Haggadot. You could try ordering off of Amazon. From everything I've seen, the wait times are weeks and weeks out. It's going to be long after Pesach, and you couldn't bank on getting anything from Amazon that isn't baby supplies, household supplies, and medical supplies, and rightly so. So that's probably not going to be much of an option. I would say that if you are looking down the pipeline and say that you're going to have to do a Seder and you don't have enough Haggadot, you need one. You can just have one, and you can supplement it with whatever you want. So if you only have one Haggadah, that's fine. And let's say, and this is a question I've already gotten, I don't have any Haggadot. So what do I do? And there are lots of online resources for sure. And we're actually sending out an email with lots of different resources. What I think might be the easiest for a lot of folks is to go to haggadot.com. And that will also be emailed out to you, Haggadot, HAGGADOT.com. And you can create your own Haggadah. And you're not creating it in a vacuum. It's not like, oh, I don't remember where's the orchats, where's the rachats. Don't worry about that. There are kind of prefab ones that you can choose, and then you can kind of play around with, and you can add things in, you can take things out, and they take that into account. It is free. And you can get it printed, like offsite, but honestly, probably now you're not going to be able to get it printed. But what you can also do is download it and do that yourself. And I think that's a great resource. If you don't have any Haggadot, but you're like, oh, I need a Haggadah, haggadot.com, and you can DIY a Haggadah, and you will be fine. Or Haggadah, different pronunciation, but it's fine. Haggadah. Second bit of hardware you're going to need for your Seder is a Seder plate. Okay. Fun fact, any plate can be a Seder plate if you put the stuff on it. So you don't need one of those fancy ones that, maybe the Seder plate is at, mom and dad's, or maybe it's at grandma's, or maybe it's at, like your aunt who always leads Seder. And they have the ones, big round little colors and little bowls, and you don't need that kind of a Seder plate. And if we had still had the second night Seder at Beth Yeshurun that I was going to lead with the cantor, we would have given you guys lots of little plates on your tables, and they were not going to be fancy Seder plates. They were going to be like a plate with the stuff. And you would have been fine because it is completely Jewishly, halakhically, whatever, okay to use a plate. On that note, that's of all your equipment for Pesach, it goes for any of that. Like the matzah plate. I don't know there was such a thing as having a matzah plate. When I was a kid growing up, we had like a dinner plate, 3 matzahs, covered it with a dinner napkin. It's a matzah plate. So pretty basic. We've, in Judaism, we have this concept of chidur mitzvah, where we take a mitzvah, a Jewish requirement, and we take whatever that object is and we make it beautiful. So we've invented these beautiful ritual items, like Seder plates and Kiddush cups and matzah boxes and a little thing to hold your etrog and so many things. And it's great. It's a Jewish concept for sure. It's not a requirement. None of that stuff is a requirement. So you can just use a cup for a Kiddush cup. You can use a plate for a Seder plate. Now, and I'm already starting to see this kind of chatter online, the Seder plate stuff, especially in a time like now when there are shortages and you might not be able to get the things that you think you're going to need. I have a gigantic Seder plate right here. Oh my gosh. Ta-da! This is a Seder plate. Like I think a lot of you probably have or have seen. It takes up the entire shot. It's a gigantic Seder plate. So I'm going to go over the things that you will need on this Seder plate and the things that there will be some wiggle room. First, we have the betzah, the egg, which is an egg. Betzah means egg. What does it do? It does nothing. It doesn't do anything on the Seder plate. It just sits there and acts as a reminder that this is a spring holiday and the newness of life, like an egg. And spring is when things are starting to bloom, starting to blossom. You don't have to do anything with the egg. I know some people have the custom of dipping the egg into the salt water because hard-boiled eggs and salt are very tasty, obviously. But you don't have to do anything with that. You don't have to have an egg for every person at your Seder. That is not at all a requirement. You need the one egg. That's fine. So that's an easier one to kind of work out. Eggs also have a very long shelf life. So like if you get a lot of eggs, they can last for a long time. And just a heads up, this is not a rabbinical thing, but fun fact about eggs is that don't go by the expiration date on the package. You can float test them. And if they sink, good to eat. If they stand up, but they're down there, then that's fine. If they float to the top, bad egg, throw it away. That's not like a rabbi thing, that's a egg thing. Next, we're gonna go from like kind of easiest to hardest to procure, I think. The Charoset, or as it's spelled out here helpfully in English for some reason, Charoset. Charoset kind of comes from the word cheres, meaning clay, and it stands for, or is a reminder of the mortar that stuck the bricks together the Israelites used to build all the fantastic structures they had to build for the Egyptians when enslaved. And there's no real law about what has to go in it. There's a lot of traditions. So first of all, if you can't get something that you need for the charoset that you make or the recipe that you found, you don't have to stress it. You can super easy sub things in and out, and it's not an issue. Also, luckily, a lot of the stuff that goes into charoset, both the traditional Ashkenazi, Eastern European charosets, like the apples, nuts, wine, honey, cinnamon mixture, which I love, and I make it every. Oh, sorry, covered my microphone. But I love that kind. I make it every year. That's a lot of stuff that kind of just lasts a very long time. Apples last a very long time, and you don't need a lot of apples to make charoset. So if you get your hands on like an apple or like half an apple, you can just use that, and they can stick around for quite a while. Same thing if you do the Sephardi charoset or the Mizrahi charoset, like my mother-in-law's looks totally different from mine. And when we would go to Ariel's parents for Pesach, I always had to make the Ashkenazi one because they were like, wow, that's so cool and different. And for me, I was like, it's the same old boring charoset every day, but okay, sure. And his family, because they do like the dried fruits and nuts one, word up. And that also is stuff that just has like a super long shelf life. That's dried fruits, nuts, which are good, just good to have in general, really. In time like now, because those are also lasting a long time. There is a bit of a run on those in the store, so don't worry if you can't get a million different kinds of things. If you've got one kind of fruit and some kind of nut, fine. If there is a nut allergy in your home and you can't have nuts, then don't put nuts in there. It's fine. You could try leaving the skins on. Chef Kevin says that's a great option. You could probably use seeds, which are fine and are not chametz, and you could eat all the seeds you want in Pesach. So that's Charoset. Zroa. I know there's a lot of stress about the Zroa, the bone. It says shank bone. I know people translate it as shank bone. A Zroa is just a bone, like any bone. Like this is a Zroa. And so it stands for the Pesach sacrifice. You also don't do anything with the bone on the plate. Nothing. You don't do anything with it. But it's, look at there, you see this bone and it reminds you, oh yes, there was a Pesach sacrifice that the Jews had to make, and with the blood and Charlton Heston putting on the door. See, I know old movies. So that's why we have the Zroa on there. It stands for the Pesach sacrifice, and that is a huge thing because it's one of the things that Torah says you have to do a Pesach sacrifice. Obviously, we don't now. We don't do animal sacrifices, but if we did animal sacrifices, we have to do a Pesach sacrifice. It's a big deal. If you don't have a bone, because who even knows what kind of meat you can find, you can use any kind of bone. You can use any kind of meat. So if you have chicken, if only thing you could dig out of your freezer was a couple of chicken breasts, put some chicken breast on there. It's fine. The point is what it stands for, and that is what it stands for. I know that there are vegetarians, and this could easily apply if you don't have any access to meat, in a couple weeks, you just don't have any, who use roasted beets. They get a beet and they roast it because, first of all, it's the roasting, so it is similar in the process to animal sacrifice, and it also kind of bleeds a little, so kind of like an animal. When I was a kid, I think one year, I don't know why, because we always had some kind of meat, but my brother and I drew a bone on paper and cut it out, put it there, and close enough. I think one year we might have used a milk bone, which in retrospect is not a good idea because that is for sure chametz, but you're kids. So don't stress the zroa, don't stress the bone. If you have any kind of meat, put it on there. Now we get into some sticky ones. And they are not all lined up on here, but that's okay. So first we've got the Carpot. It's hard to see the Hebrew, but there's Carpot. Carpot, and it's translated on my Seder Plate so helpfully in English as parsley. The Carpot is a vegetable and is generally a green vegetable, and it is usually parsley. But the Carpot is the one that you dip into salt water, 2 times. Manish tana. Why do you dip twice? You dip it twice in salt water, though. I think some Sephardim and Mizrachim, meaning Spanish, Portuguese Jews, or Middle Eastern Jews, use vinegar. I think I've been to a Seder once where they did vinegar. You dip the parsley in there twice. Ashkenazim, not now, but back when, by we I mean definitely me, because I'm clearly 100% Ashkenazi. We are living in the shtetl. There weren't so many green leafy vegetables. It's just the truth of shtetl life, living in, Poland and Russia and all those countries. There weren't so many green leafy vegetables, and there weren't so many green leafy vegetables, especially around the time of Pesach. So what did they use? They actually used potato. Some Ashkenazim still use potato. So if you don't have parsley, and the thing about parsley is it doesn't have a very long life, so it's not even something you can really buy very far in advance for your Seder this year, and you can't count on it being in the store when you go. Don't stress the parsley. It's fine. Potato is a great sub. Potatoes also last forever. If you put them somewhere cool and dark, they will last for a very long time. So it's a great food for right now in general. And also for Pesach, for your karpas, if you don't have parsley, you'll survive. Use potato and dip that in your salt water. And it'll still taste pretty good. And it won't get stuck in your teeth and leave little bits. So honestly, maybe potato is the way to go. Okay. Now, this is the part that gets a little bit squirrely. Where is this? Did they put it next to each other? No. Okay. We've got maror. Maror. If I say maror, you probably think horseradish. Maror is the bitter herb. And many, probably most people I've ever known, American Jews I'm talking here, especially Ashkenazi Jews, use horseradish. We're all familiar with horseradish. Like a little white stuff in the jar. It's very pungent, and the slightly less pungent version that's pink because they are red. They dye it with beet juice. It makes it a little bit less pungent, still pretty pungent. because it's bitter and it reminds us of the bitterness of the slavery that the Israelites had to survive for hundreds of years, because sometimes we go through tough times. Many people, I have seen this, Sephardi, Mizrahi, Israeli, don't use horseradish. They use romaine lettuce, because the point is it's any kind of maror, any kind of bitter vegetable. So if you don't have, just touched my face, sorry. If you don't have like horseradish, can't imagine them having a run on that in the store, but you never know. You don't have to use horseradish. You could use any kind of bitter vegetable. Romaine isn't even that bitter, and a lot of people still use it. If you go to the store and the only thing they have is, like arugula or some random vegetable that no one else is eating because they don't know what it is, get arugula, and it's spicy and peppery and definitely counts as maror. So that's a good option if you don't have access to horseradish. Exactly. Now, we've also got, where's this one? Here you go. The weirdo on the plate, chazeret. It says on here lettuce, and that's because you could translate it actually directly as lettuce. Chazeret is basically maror part de. It's another bitter herb. And a lot of people put lettuce there. It would probably be more technically correct to put your romaine there, any kind of bitter vegetable, any kind of bitter, I think people use radish. It's another option, though I like radishes. And here's the thing about chazeret. If you have access and you have the ability to do like a maror, some kind of horseradish, and a chazeret, some kind of bitter lettuce thing going on, then you should do it. And if you don't, leave the chazeret off. You don't need it. You can survive with just maror. But if you can, and in a time that isn't now, because we're kind of in a shada dahak, it's like a little bit of a stressful time. Now, I'd say fine. Just if you can't have both, just use maror. So that's what you need for Pesach, for the Seder. I hope that covers Haggadot. You can go online, haggadot.com, and really just kind of DIY that. I think that's probably the best option. You can print it. It's free. Seder plate, we've covered. Oh, but there's one important thing we did not cover, and that's matzah. I don't think we're going to be super worried about not having matzah for Pesach because it's matzah. It's not even that good. I don't love matzah, clearly. And here's the good news about matzah. If you're worried, like, oh no, how do I make sure I have enough matzah, et cetera, et cetera? Here is a little bit of legitimate, rabbinic, very halachic, very specific wisdom for you. The only time you need to eat matzah is at the Seder. The only time you have to eat matzah is at the Seder. We say the motzi over it, and we say a specific bracha, a specific blessing for eating matzah, because it is a mitzvah, not a mitzvah in the sense of like a deed, but a mitzvah in the sense of you have to do this thing that's Jewish. The only time you have to eat matzah is at the Seder. So how much matzah do you really need? Figure about half a sheet per person per Seder. If you have two, then double that. That's how much matzah you need. And that has to be like good old-fashioned, plain flour, water matzah. The whole rest of the holiday, you don't need to eat strict by the book matzah or at all. Egg matzah, eat egg matzah the rest of the holiday. Egg matzah is not allowed for Seder because it is mixed. It's not just flour and water. It's flour, water, plus eggs, plus a little bit of apple juice. Makes it soft, very tasty. I love egg matzah. It doesn't count for that flavored matzahs, like the everything bagel matzah and the onion matzah and whatever fancy matzahs that exist. Doesn't work for the Seder. But you can have them the whole rest of the holiday. You can also not eat any matzah at all. That being said, matzah is somewhat versatile. If you have kids that really just would love French toast, matzah brei is a great little French toast substitute. You can make matzah pizza, classic, delicious. I've seen lasagna, haven't eaten it, but I've heard you can make lasagna out of matzah. So, you have it around for sure, but it's not required except for during the Seder. And that kind of bridges to part 2, unless there's any questions about doing your own Seder for the first time or for the first time in a long time, and especially doing how to do a Seder now when things are a little squirrely. Please let me know if you have any questions. Going to move on to kosher for Passover in a time of pandemic. And I have to give 2 caveats right now. One is that I do not represent the HKA, the Houston Kashrut Association. I'm not them. So I'm not doing Psak Halacha for the HKA. I'm not doing it for the shul. So if you order Passover to go and you get your Seder and your meal and everything else from Beth Yeshurun, it's going to be HKA. And I'm not representing how the shul does their preparation. I'm not representing how the HKA says you should do preparation. I'm representing fully halachic, fully Jewish, just not that, not them, not Beth Yeshurun, not HKA. I am also not the Mara Da'atra of the synagogue. That would be our senior rabbi, Rabbi Brian Strauss. He is the Mara Da'atra, meaning he is the, decisor of all the halachic decisions for the synagogue. So he can tell you what we're doing at shul. I'm simply saying things that are halachic and allowed, and definitely things that I would do or have done. And maybe just isn't what we are doing at the synagogue, but it's no less Jewish. Caveats done. It is totally possible to keep kosher for Passover even this year. I really do think it might be different than you usually do, but it is possible. So there's kind of 2 things I want to cover, which are I'm waiting to see the comments on some of these things. First, before I say the 2 things, a pre-thing. Rabbi Gelman at UOS said he's been in contact with the OU, which is a gigantic kashrut association governing body. And they have said that there is no issues on the production end, that they have no shortages of things that they have made. So there exists enough Pesach stuff. And the stores already have everything here that they were going to have for Pesach. And this is true for not Pesach. And it is definitely true for Pesach. If people hoard, if you buy not just what you need, but like a few extra, if you buy things that you don't need, you are literally taking those things away from other Jews in the community. I mean, that's true in general. Again, it's true with milk and toilet paper and bread and eggs and all that other stuff, for sure. And it's really, really true for kosher or Passover stuff. There's only so much of this stuff. So if people are hoarding that, they are literally taking it away from their friends, from their neighbors, from some other random Jew. So please do not hoard the kosher for Passover stuff. Get what you need, for sure. But don't take more than you need. Okay, caveat over. 2 things about keeping kosher for Pesach, especially now. And I feel like I'm getting a lot of comments and questions about this. I've already gotten several. There are 3 categories of basically food on Pesach. There are things that you can buy for Pesach without a hechsher. You don't need to have a stamp on there that says kosher for Passover. And that's true for this very short list of things, whether you buy it before Pesach or you buy it during Pesach. This is important. Yes, Adam says the H-E-B in Maryland seems to have plenty of kosher Passover stuff in the seasonal aisle as of a couple of days ago. It seems they've even restocked a few items. So thank you, Adam, for reassuring everybody that H-E-B in Maryland has plenty of things. So definitely go and get what you want. In my experience for life, chocolate lollipops go very fast. But don't get more than you need. But thank you, Adam, for reassuring us all. There are things you can buy without a hechsher. And it doesn't matter if it's before Pesach or during Pesach. You can buy eggs. You're fine. You can buy pure tea leaves or pure bag tea, not flavored stuff that's complicated. You can get regular coffee, regular ground coffee, olive oil, whole nuts, whole spices, Fish. I personally get fish that's not stamped kosher because I know fish. So it's fine for me. If it's fine for you, you can buy your fish anytime. Kosher meat, you can buy it anytime. Fresh veggies, fresh fruits, you're fine. And baking soda. And I got a lot of questions about like baking powder, and that can't be kosher for Passover because it makes things leavened. Baking powder is not chametz. Does it make things puff? Sure, but so do egg whites, and we still like to use egg whites, don't we? If you're not comfortable, of course, don't use it, but it's kosher for Passover. Then we have stuff that is kosher. If you buy it before Pesach, and this is a huge, if I could wave a big flag and say, hey, pay attention to this part. This, and then the thing I'm going to say after, very important. There is a rule in kashrut halacha, meaning the laws of keeping kosher, called batel b'shishim, meaning nullified in the 60th. It doesn't translate directly very well, but basically if less than 1/60th of the thing, the food, is something that doesn't belong there, and you didn't know it was there, then it's fine. An example, let's say in the frozen broccoli factory, where they make frozen broccoli. And the frozen broccoli is on this conveyor belt. And over here is frozen broccoli with a cheese sauce packet. And somehow, magically, some little infinitesimal, less than 1/60th bit of the cheese sauce packet flew up and out of the air and went over to the regular broccoli. And it went on and was bagged up, and you bought it. And you bought it, and you made it, and you ate it with chicken, because delicious. Who wouldn't? Oh my gosh, but you just had broccoli with a little itty bit less than 1/60th bit of cheese sauce. You just had milk and meat. The good news is that you didn't, because it was less than 1/60th, and that becomes batel b'shishim. It becomes nullified, because so the vast majority of what you ate was just broccoli. And you also didn't know. So you're not liable for any kind of uh-oh in that case. And that's a great thing. It's a wonderful concept in kashrut halacha. Pesach is a little stickier. And here is why. Back in our broccoli factory, our frozen broccoli factory, over here they've got the broccoli, and over here they've got the broccoli that's made with some kind of a spice packet, which has some chametz derivative on there. And some little bit of the chametz spice derivative flies up from the line and flies over to the regular broccoli line, and it gets on your broccoli and packaged up, and you go to the store and you buy it. Now, you bought it before Pesach. You take your broccoli home. On Pesach, you cook up your broccoli. It's a tiny little less than 1/60th bit. It doesn't even taste like chametz because you don't even know what's in there, and you're like, I'm going to taste chametz. And sorry for my baby. If you cook up that broccoli and you eat it with your chicken on Pesach, chicken doesn't matter at this point, then, oh my God, did you just eat chametz? No, because you bought it before. So before it came into your possession, before Pesach started, and then through the magic of Pesach and the different things that we do to nullify our chametz on Pesach, the less than 1/60th rule, the batel b'shishim, holds. If you buy it before Pesach, if it comes into your possession before Pesach. If after Pesach started, you go to the store, you're like, ooh, broccoli, plain frozen broccoli. You go home and you make it and you eat it. That one less than 1/60th of chametz is still chametz. And it does not go away. There's no batel b'shishim for stuff that is bought on Pesach. And that is why there's a ton of things that you can get, but you have to buy them before Pesach starts. So that's the stuff that you need to keep an eye on in the stores now. It is regrettably also stuff that I think is very popular right now, that a lot of people are buying. That is 100% fruit juice. So any juice you have is 100%. It doesn't need to have a hechsher, but you do have to buy it before Pesach. White sugar, for example. Fun fact, powdered sugar often has cornstarch in it. So if you don't eat corn, regular powdered sugar, can't do it. If you eat corn, then different. Quinoa, gotta buy it before Pesach. Plain milk, gotta buy before Pesach. If you don't do Chalav Yisrael, and if you do Chalav Yisrael, you're probably not listening to me right now. So you can get plain milk without a kosher Pesach hechsher, but you gotta buy it before Pesach. Fish, frozen fruit, frozen vegetables. You don't need a kosher Passover stamp on there, but you gotta buy them before because of my broccoli on the conveyor belt story. And then there is stuff that requires a hechsher. And now here is where I'm going to pause this for a hot second because we have 10 minutes left. I want to distinguish between kitniot and chametz. Chametz is something that you cannot eat under any circumstances. People who eat kitniot don't eat chametz. You can't eat chametz. You can't do it. And people say, oh, but I heard the conservative movement says you can eat kitniot now. So does that mean I can have cream of wheat? No, because cream of wheat has wheat in the name. No, you cannot have cream of wheat. There are 5 grains, just 5 little grains that you cannot have on Pesach under any circumstances. 1, I think you already know, wheat. Can't have wheat. Can't have any derivatives of wheat. This can get you into trouble with some stuff, like decaf coffee is often made with a chametz derivative. Instant coffee, often made with a chametz derivative. So those you actually always need a kosher Passover hechsher. Wheat and its derivatives. Can't have wheat. Barley, no barley derivatives. Oats. Someone's like, oh, but I can have oatmeal, right? No, sorry, you can't have oatmeal. It's one of the big 5. Can't have that. Spelt. And as I recently learned, is it I don't know how to pronounce it, so I apologize for all the chefs. But farro or farro, I don't know. But if you're at the store and you're like, what can I eat that's kind of like a grain but not a grain? Ooh, farro. No, sorry, spelt. Can't do it. Can't do it. And rye. Oats, wheat, barley, spelt, rye. Those are the big 5. Those are chametz. And you cannot have them, and you cannot have the derivatives. Period. Boom. Done. Cannot have them. Sorry. Also, fun fact, the only matzah you can have is matzah derived from those 5 things. So most of us have wheat matzah. If you have a gluten allergy or you are celiac, oat matzah or spelt matzah. And also, if you are not like medically needing to eat gluten-free, leave the gluten-free matzah for the folks who need it. Otherwise, they get sick. I know too many people who are celiac, and if they don't have gluten-free matzah, it's not happening. So let's leave that for them this year. That's chametz. Chametz you can't have. Period. Boom. Done. Then there's kitniot. Kitniot. That runs the gamut. There's so much stuff that gets thrown into the category of kitniot, from corn to rice to millet to beans to even things like green beans, which I think just have the word green bean in the name. So this is an Ashkenazi hang-up, meaning Jews from Eastern Europe. Some Sephardim, Mizrahim do have like little weird exceptions. I'm talking about people who just say, like, I don't eat kitniot because I'm Ashkenazi. It's a relatively recent restriction. It's not like a super old thing we've always done. We have never eaten chametz, period. Boom, done. I'll be very explicit about this. But kitniot, 13th century, Ashkenaz, so, France, Germany, specifically the French in this case, and rabbis were concerned. They thought maybe people will be confused because they might think, well, if rice is allowed, maybe oats are allowed. We should not let people eat rice. And some of them thought, well, maybe they'll be mixed up when they grow. Like maybe you'd have, or mixed up when they're being stored. Like you have a sack of wheat and you have a sack of millet, maybe they'll get mixed up. And so the rabbis in about 13th century or so, 12th, 13th century, France, Ashkenaz, said, no, kitniot. Interesting that they said that. The rabbis in the Talmud, so way earlier, they argued about it. And some of them said, maybe we shouldn't let people eat rice. I read the Talmud on this. The Gemara is actually really interesting if anyone wants to study that. And other rabbis were like, no, what? No, rice is fine. We all know rice is not chametz. We all know rice is fine. So the rabbis in the Talmud said it was fine. And there were rabbis who existed at the same time as the rabbis in France, 13th century, who said, remember those guys were like, no, we shouldn't let people eat beans. Other rabbis at the same time said, what are you? It's beans. It's not a grain. And no one's going to think that they're the same. They know wheat, barley, oats, rye, spelt. Those are the things you can't eat. And even in modern times, there are plenty of rabbis, besides the Sephardim who eat kitniot, who say it's fine. Rabbi Israel Solander, who actually founded the Musar movement, he kind of made a point of eating kitniot on Pesach because he was living during a time when there was a scarcity of food. Sounds familiar. And he wants to make the point that this is not chametz. This is fine to eat. So kitniot are not chametz, and not eating kitniot is a custom. And it's fine if you keep that custom, and it's fine if you like that custom. That is totally fine. If you're like, yeah, I don't eat corn, I don't eat beans, I don't eat rice. That's fine. But you should know that it's a custom. It's not a law. And you're not bad for saying, oh, I don't eat kitniot. I'm not saying you're wrong. You need to eat kitniot. I'm not saying you need to eat kitniot, but I'm here to tell you, especially, I see a question about corn. I have to look that one up. It's allowed. And if you're someone who never eats kitniot on Pesach, but this year you're like, it's going to be tough to find all the things that I want, all the things that I need, eat kitniot. You're fine. If you get kitniot on your Pesach dishes and the next year, like, oh my God, well, last year we had to do it because of, the virus, but this year is fine. I have kitniot all over my plates. They're fine. You do not chametz up your plates and your dishes by having kitniot on them. You chametz them up by having chametz on them. Don't get chametz on your dishes, your Pesach dishes. Don't get chametz on your Pesach pots and pans. Kitniot is fine. So I would recommend that you look for the Sephardi list, and we will. I will make sure they are available. The ones now, you can be careful because there's some lists online that say they're Sephardi, but they're not Sephardi, and I don't know why they say that they are. I recommend Rabbi Gabriel Cohen with Kahal Joseph. The one that they have out currently is 5778, and I realize that it's 2 years out of date. I hope that they get a new one up soon. And if they don't, I'm going to be real honest with you. I've used their list for years and years and years, because I would never eat chametz on Pesach. I would never eat chametz on Pesach. But I eat kitniot because it's not chametz. And I've used their list for years and years and years, and they really don't change particularly much. They updated, like 10 years ago, there were no such thing as K-cups. Now they have K-cups on there, but their basics don't change. So if they don't change, honestly, I'm going to use the same list. If you eat kitniot, or if you make an exception for yourself and you decide that this year you're going to eat kitniot, the whole world opens up to you. And I would consult the lists to get, very specific, but butter, any kind of butter, plain, just if it's plain, the highest grade butter, solid butter, fine. Most of your spreadable butter, Land O'Lakes is on that list. I don't know off the top of my head, but a lot of this, because the spreadable butter we get for kosher Passover that's made with the cottonseed oil is horrible. So I just get my Land O'Lakes. You need a new container, because if you've been dipping that knife into that butter and spreading it on bread and then putting that knife back in your butter, you'll need a new container. Frozen veggies, canned veggies, soy milk, almond milk. If these things are plain and unflavored, and I would, again, check his list if there's a specific brand, but by and large, they are fine. Flavorings get a little bit dicey. Canned tuna is fine. There are some that use, again, kitniot derivatives. The Sephardi list, the Sephardim eat kitniot. So the great thing about the Sephardi list is that they have so many things on there that are regular brands. So like, you don't have to buy the kosher Passover canned tuna unless you aren't eating kitniot. But if you are eating kitniot, which are not chametz, you can pretty much buy your regular brand. Look it up. Vanilla extract. Some chocolate chips, the Hershey's milk chocolate and I think semi-sweet, are kosher on Passover, though they are not going to be stamped that way. Many vinegars, apple cider vinegar, distilled vinegar, not wine vinegar. No, because grapes and juice. That's another thing with 100% juice. I should just remember that now. You can't do 100% juice of grape. We're running out of time. Yogurt, if it's kosher during the year, it's kosher on Passover. Sweeteners, like your stevia, your NutraSweet. Potato chips, if they're kosher year round and they're not made from flakes, then you're fine. Pringles are made from flakes and they have chametz, so don't do it. Your pickles, kosher parfum margarine. Most of your jams, your peanut butters, your almond butters, you need a fresh jar because of that contamination. The knife goes in and the knife goes out. Things you definitely can't eat, even if you're doing the Sephardi thing: soy sauce, straight up wheat, decaf coffee, instant coffee. Ashley's telling me to slow down because we actually have till 1. There's a lot of stuff on the Sephardi list. So kitniot, so the stuff that's made from soy, stuff that's made from corn, stuff that's made from rice. All of your oils, really, you're not restricted to cottonseed oil. So do it if you want, or olive oil. Do it if you want. Coconut oil. Yeah, these are all fine. If you want to use your canola oil, canola is not made from a bean. It's not made from anything. Not even made from kitniot. I don't think technically it's made from a seed. There's no such thing as a canola bean. I have this conversation many times a year. It's fine. It's canola oil. So these are things you can buy that don't even need kosher or Passover stamps on them, because they are, by how they are made, by nature of how they're made, kosher or Passover year round. And the Sephardi authorities, who are for sure very observant, Orthodox, definitely don't think I'm a rabbi, like very, very observant. They would say you can eat these things. And if they say you can eat these things, I think you can eat them. I'd eat them. I do eat them. So a lot of stuff that you may already have is probably fine. Look at their list. If you have a specific question about a specific food, please text me or message me or email me, and I will look it up and I'll give you the best answer that I can, because I've been doing this for a while. And again, you don't have to eat kitniot this year, but if it's going to work for you, then you can eat kitniot this year. And, it's really funny how somehow we managed to keep Pesach, like 100 years ago or 150, whenever they, Straits started making matzah and Manischewitz started making matzah. Somehow we magically managed to keep Pesach before they had those cans of macaroons, which, let's be honest, aren't that good. Except for the chocolate chip. I do like the chocolate chip, but in general, very gross. We've managed to keep Pesach, and we have managed to do it successfully for a long, long, long time. And that just might mean that your Pesach this year looks a little bit different, and that's okay too. I know I've gotten a few questions coming in during this, and I have to look up at the history of corn specifically. I know the 13th century rabbis in France were talking about like legumes and rice specifically, but I'd have to look up corn because corn is so unknown to Jews because it was, in the Americas. And so we just didn't really come into contact with corn. So again, relatively recently. I'll have to look that up. Thank you, Ron. And thank you to Sandra. I know like the Chalav Yisrael, it really doesn't, there's only dairy products that are really going to be that issue. And the Sephardi list do actually specify generally, like if you do Chalav Yisrael, that like, what things you can and can't have even on their own list, because there are folks who do keep Sephardi kashrut halacha, but will not eat, drink, consume dairy products that are not Chalav Yisrael. Rule of thumb, go with the stamped Chalav Yisrael products, of course, if that's what you do. And I think that's good for questions. If you have any, again, specific questions about Seder or about kosher Passover, we have another session just like this one in a week, and I am happy to answer any questions that you might have. Everything I didn't get to today, I will start to tackle next week. And good luck with your Pesach preparations. You can do it. We can do it. We've been through hard times before, and we have kept Pesach throughout them. And I look forward to helping anyone who needs it with having their Pesach be as wonderful and meaningful and different, but good as ever before. So thank you so much for listening. It was a pleasure. It's kind of weird talking to just myself, but I assume that some people are listening besides the people who wrote in questions. So it was wonderful. Thank you so much, and have a wonderful day. Good luck preparing. Bye, Adam.